So we're planning for a lot more people tonight. Your best place to sit will be up front where you can see the screens. You're more than welcome to sit in the back, but if you want to follow along with the slides, you're better off up front. I promise I won't bite, and neither will our presenters. And I do know we're gonna have some people trickling in because we had a great field trip that just showed up. They got dropped off a little later than anticipated, and I have several parents in there to go drop the kids off with that. Anyway, well, welcome tonight. I sure appreciate you taking the time to come out and listen to some of the exciting things that we're talking about in the school district, and we want to share that with you. My name is Robert Freeman. I'm the superintendent of the Glide School District. This is my third year here. So when I got hired, the board had asked that we develop a strategic plan, and that strategic plan was developed and it guides everything we do in this district. Following that strategic plan, part of that is soliciting information from our community. This particular board is super important that they get feedback from every single person in the community, and this is part of honoring that tenet of that strategic plan. Lots of opportunities to give feedback. If you hear something tonight and you have questions, please ask. If you go home and you start thinking about something you heard tonight and you want further information, please don't hesitate to call my office and get your questions answered. We're going to put the recording of tonight's meeting online, and we'll also have the slide deck that you're going to see online too. So you can go back and reference that. So with that, I want to make sure we're super clear on what tonight is. Tonight is an opportunity for the district to share ideas and thoughts about opportunities that are really near in the future, and give you some historical background. I already talked about the meeting the tenets of the strategic plan and soliciting information from the community. And we really want to drive that home. If you go home and you talk to your extended people and they have questions, please invite them to call the school district, talk to me personally. I would welcome anybody to call or come in and have questions. I would start out by saying if tonight's a really good meeting, what would that look like? And in my mind, it would be that we give you background information, talking about opportunities ahead of us, and give you an opportunity to give us input and tell us what you're thinking. Whether we're on track or, you know what, you're way off base. You really need to be thinking about this. I take criticism very well, so don't feel like you're gonna hurt my feelings. And I think the board is the same way, so they really want to hear what you're thinking. We have some professionals that are with us, and I'll get into that a little bit more and how they came about. But I would like to introduce two people that are going to help me with the presentation tonight. The first one is Kyle Lair, and he's with Assist, and he'll talk more about what that program is. And then John Stapleton, and he's with a company called Pivot, and they're going to talk about their rules. Now, you guys can get it. I'll move around my slide. Okay, if you recall, in 2007, you were asked to vote on a capital improvement bond for the Glide School District. In 2007, you approved that. You approved a levy at $1.09 per thousand assessed value of your property, and that generated some funds. That bond is coming due, as you can see, next year. So this chart shows that we've started paying that back in 2008, and next year in 2027 is the last year of that bond. So we have an opportunity here in Glide, a window, if you will, that we want to make sure we don't miss. And what that window does is it allows us to enhance our buildings, do some really great things for the district at no increased cost to taxpayers. So what this is called is a leveling bond. And what that means is it will continue, if voted and passed, it will continue at the current rate. The current rate that you're paying right now is 91 cents per thousand assessed value. And that's what we're talking about going out. And what 91 cents per thousand will do, are some ideas that we're gonna put in front of you. Okay, so the main point there is in 2027, next year, bond goes away. We have a window of opportunity to extend that for another 20 years at no increased cost to you. Any questions over that? That's the window that we're in. Okay, what led us to this point is, during the budget meetings, the board was made aware that the current bond was expiring next year. And the budget committee, which consists of the board and patrons, said this is an opportunity for buying that we really need to look into and ensure that we don't miss this window. So the board directed me to start preparing the district to go out for a capital improvement bond. And the steps that I took, our first step was to find out what the current bond rate was or is, and that's the 91 cents. And we worked with a company called Piper Sandler. And Piper Sandler works with 90+% of the schools in the state of Oregon. These two probably know the exact amount, but they're the bond gurus in the state of Oregon. They worked up dollars from what the rate that passed, the $1.08 that was passed in 2007 would generate, and then what the 91 cents current rate would generate in a new capital improvement levy. We also applied through the state of Oregon, through the Oregon Department of Education, Facilities TAP grant. It's a process where school districts can apply for that grant, and they hire companies to come out and do assessments of your facilities. And what that group is looking at is how do your facilities meet the needs of your instructional program. So they look at ages of buildings, the condition of buildings, but more importantly, they look at how is the structure of your building helping or hindering your instructional process. We'll get into more of that later. Pivot Architect, that's John and his company. They were hired to complete that, and they did. And then that information, and John's going to get into a little bit more about that process, but that information is what is driving the ideas and projects that we're exploring to do in this next. By doing that, that makes the school district eligible for an awesome grant. And we're going to get into a little bit more of what an awesome grant is. But basically, the state of Oregon has another opportunity for school districts. If they pass the capital improvement bond, they will give some matching funds up to a certain amount. In our district, we are eligible for 6.1 additional dollars if we were to pass the bond. Not only would the bond generate dollar figure of 91 cents, we would also get additional money through the awesome grant. Okay, this is where there's 2 mics here.
Nice. Okay. I probably could use my coach's voice and reach all people who use the one in the state of today. So, as Robert shared earlier, my name is Kyle Laird from Assistant Education Services. My firm serves school districts throughout the state, typically smaller school districts, and a whole host of areas. And one of those areas is what we're talking about today, which is helping communities understand the process of how schools are funded, But also making sure the community is really clear on what school district will that bring on. What's in that bond? What does that mean for your students? What does that mean for your community? And so we're here today to help a little bit with that. I would share with you that my background is 23 years in education. Most recently the superintendent in Oregon City School District. So I know what happens in these buildings during the day, well, as a teacher and as a principal, superintendent. And then I also get to work with communities in the state of Oregon doing meetings just like this. Just last night, I was way up north with another small community, working with them on some of the same stuff. So it's kind of going to do. As I talk about things tonight, please feel free to ask questions. As I shared, I was a teacher, so I do like questions, and especially with Fairmont, I'll make sure everybody understands what we're talking about. And if they're real complex, I say, what? Let's touch base afterwards. We'll try to clarify things. Don't feel bad about asking questions. The first thing I start off with is that, as I shared, been a lot of different communities for. And to know communities' fault, we oftentimes don't understand the system and how it runs schools in our state. Especially in the area of facilities. A lot of times when I have working in communities, they're asking the question, like we say the word more. Why are you asking for extra money? Why is it that we need to give you extra money for facilities? Why can't you use the money that you have to take care of your facilities? Yeah, that's something we very commonly see. It's through a misunderstanding of how our system is set up. So I'm going to bore you for a second with some basic questions. Yeah. Closer. Oh wow. See, that's where it gets scary though. I got that loud voice. Okay. Let me know. Okay, I apologize. It'll get closer and further away. So, all right. So one of the things we do like to talk about is you're starting off with a very simple explanation of your tax statement and how those taxes that you pay and what you see on your tax statement support the school district. So, and I will tell you, if there's anybody here that is an expert on this is the Sesame Street version. Okay, I keep it simple. Okay, when you look at your tax statement, you can have up to 3 lines that go to your local school district. Okay, one that we all have is the permanent tax rate. Okay, there's a permanent tax rate that is set. We all pay those different tax rates in our communities. What I like to tell people, the simple way of looking at that is the money that we put towards operating your school district. So it's paying for your teachers, it's paying for the utilities, and it's paying for some minor maintenance and repairs. It's basically what keeps our schools running for the year. That's what that amount of money is for operations. And oftentimes we misunderstand and we think that that is also for major things to do with our facilities. That's not the way our system is set up. Okay, some communities, and I don't believe you do here, I'm operating with me, right? Okay, some communities, I think it's about 20 out of 197 school districts in the state, have what we call an operating unit. Okay, that is where a community has made a decision and they have voted to put extra operational money into that school district. And some school districts do this for things like, we want to make sure we have extra reading teachers for extra PE and for something to that extent. And that's an operating level. We won't see that on your tax statement here looking out of the state. The second one you have here, and unfortunately neither school district has, is a line for a general obligation bond. Okay, bonds are how we fund facilities in the state of Florida. It's not an extra. It wasn't put into place for a community to decide we're going to do extra with our facilities. It is the funding stream for how we make sure we do major maintenance and repairs, any renovations or new construction. And part of the reason that it's set up in this way, where communities vote on it, is because we have it's built on the idea of what we call local control. So here in July, you get to decide what your facilities look like, what facilities you provide for your students. In Sherwood, they get to decide. And Roseburg down the street, they get to decide. Right? So we all get to decide that through voting for bonds. And so part of what the district is doing today is they're putting forth to you, after looking at the condition of their facilities and where they're putting it at, what is it that they think they need to do next? And what is it that they great for to improve the district, but also make sure that they continue to maintain and keep on all facilities. So that's why I'm having this following conversation with you. As Robin said, we're coming up on a bond expiry. The last one you passed is just about to expire. The next one here. And one of the So I talked to a lot of school districts about what's kind of the responsible path, or the fiscally conservative path. To funding your facilities to make sure that once you get the most out of your money. Okay, I have a lot of districts, maybe one big one down the street, that doesn't currently have a bond rate. Okay, and so when you don't have a bond rate, and you don't have a bond that's expiring, every time you go out, you're asking taxpayers for more. Okay, if you're in a situation like you are here at Live, where you have one that's expired, you go back out to your community, you look to renew that rate. Your community gets used to. A lot of districts that are really well. Not funded, but well taken care of facilities. They continue to renew their rates when they come up. That keeps a flow of money coming in. It makes sure that they're continually maintaining their buildings. And they're continuing doing the upgrading that they need to. Which in the end, saves taxpayers money and puts the district in a better position for facilities. And we have some other districts that unfortunately they get behind. So like last night, I'm gonna tell you where. And I was in a community that built their schools in 1976. They have not passed a bond since 1976. You can imagine what that facility looks like. It's unfortunately I know how old it is because I was born in 76. So it's getting old, all right? And now they're looking at, they've got to raise funds through tax that it's not used to that. Okay, and they're also looking at a situation where they probably would not be able to pass a law that would take care of all the needs that they have. Okay, they're doing what I like to call the approach is that they have to look and fix it all. Like we've got this huge building, we haven't upgraded it in a while, we've got to fix it all. You can imagine doing that, your tax rate would be extremely high. And in most communities, they can't support that. They can't go enough that we take 30, 40, 50 years to redo something. And then pay the rate that it would take to renew. Districts that are doing this well, you are positioned to be one of those districts. Are ones that when a bond comes off the books, when it's expiring, you renew, you continue to keep that rate the same. You continue to upgrade your buildings where you need to. And what that does going forward, once again, keeps your facilities in good condition. And they can get it for your taxpayers, you're getting more bang for your buck because you're not doing that big investment. That makes sense. And then other districts that are not able to get one passed, I'll be honest with you, they're band-aiding. I'm in some school districts where I was at school district earlier, I'm in one right now. Where this year, they had some trusses fail because they haven't done things in a long time. And if a few more of those trusses had failed, they would shut down the school, they were gonna be talking to churches. And strip malls about where the kids are listening. You wanna stay on the path where you're continuing to fund your schools, so you don't get that in this situation. Yes, those are kind of few situations, by the way, live, very different conversations than what I had last time, but they're at least live. Alright, we've got good facilities, we've got an opportunity to renew, you've got an opportunity to kind of upgrade those and take those. And so, and that's, we kind of talk about this, I call this a phased approach, and other people call it, so I got that, you see, I told you it's gonna slip again. A phased approach, you want to keep that tax rate low for your community. Continue to renew as it comes up. The district also has the ability over time, if interest rates are good, they can always refinance just like we do on our homes. Short this amount of time, go out for a bond and renew again. That's a phased approach. The districts I see around the state that are doing really well with facilities. They're the districts that continue when their bonds come up for expiration. They continue to renew and they continue to invest. And so once again, you're in a really good spot. Potentially be able to do that, and because the district's going to share today, against my needs, not finding money. Okay, and then I think this is the last one for me right here. Robert mentioned an awesome grant, and it's not so awesome like we all think about. It's an acronym, okay, but it does sound pretty cool because it is pretty awesome. In 2016, the state recognized that they needed to encourage some communities to pass funds. Because a lot of our schools were built in 40s, 50s, 60s. They're starting to get to a point. So it's meant as encouragement. It's a matching grant. If the district puts the ball out, this particular district will get $6 million in matching funds to go with what it is that they're looking forward. And in this case, if you renew, actually I think that's on the next slide. Yeah, so in this case, if we renew that rate where it's currently at, what you would bring in with that bond is around $16 million. Okay, and then if the community supported that development. And they voted for that, they approved that, you get that 16 million, and then the state would put in another 6 million. So you'd be looking at $22 million of investment. The community that we just currently got done from election, Cascade School District was able to get basically 25% of their bond project paid for by that grant. So that matching fund it's a nice incentive. And that's money that you're not paying directly out of your tax dollars involved. Okay, so you got an opportunity with the renewal coming up. 16 million through the bond, up to 22 million when that costs. Okay, and last one, then you can pick me up the stage for a bit. Okay, is you have 2 opportunities to renew before that tax rate falls on. And you be going back out to tax payers for what would then be considered an additional tax or raising tax. And that's this November election and in the May election. So the district also has a decision to make there around when they would put a bond down to the community. Responsibility or why they're engaged in these items to make sure that what they are putting out is what community members would most likely most. What is that they value the next to the tax district.
All right, what I'd like to do with this next slide is go back in time, and in 2007, this is what the Zion School District did with the money that they generated in that bond. So the big thing, they built a Helix Hall, which is the library and science building at the high school. And then they chose to do some upgrades on facilities, so replacing roofs at the elementary and high school. Upgraded the elementary playground, relocated the middle school library to the main building, renovated science rooms, replaced all the windows at the high school, renovated gym bathrooms and locker rooms, replaced the bathroom windows and coverings, and renovated the cafeteria bathrooms, retiled the cafeteria, the new high school gym bleachers, and then a new gym floor. And that's what they did in 2007. So by doing that, they actually took care of a lot of the maintenance, that upkeep of the district, which puts us in a really good position for phase 2 that we have ahead of us. When I go out and I talk to people about 2007 and that process, I got a lot of feedback, a lot of direct feedback. I told you I'm not opposed to constructive criticism. And the number one thing I heard from the patrons was they felt like the district wasn't upfront with them and they weren't honest about what was being put on the bond. So I'm gonna put the elephant in the room, throw it out on the table, hit it head on. Here's my promise to you as your leader of your school district now. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna be super transparent. We're gonna have meetings like this until August, when the board has to decide if they're gonna go for a bond or not. We're gonna continue to get feedback from the community. We're going to continue to let our projects evolve into what we think will be the best product to put forth to our community. Kyle's gonna talk a little bit about what his organization will do to ensure that the process we're going through right now is transparent. We're gonna do exactly what we say we're gonna do, and then even when the bond is passed, we're gonna actually spend more energy communicating on how the project's going and how it's impacting our school system. So you will know exactly what the district is doing and how we're being stewards of your taxpayer money. Okay. If you want specifics, I'm not afraid to throw things out either. It was told to me by a number of people that the district was promised a new math room for the rest of the program in 2007. There was some facilities built, but not dedicated to the rest of the team. So that was the number one obstacle then. So we're going to avoid all of that by being super transparent and communicating as best we can. Kyle's organization will help with that. I think that's the next slide.
Yes, okay, thank you. And guys, let me, I can remind you again, make sure I don't drop the mic. If I do, yell at me, throw something at me, and thanks for it. I don't know why I do that. Okay, but one of the things that we talk to our districts about when we make the agreement to work with them is not only are we going to be really transparent, make sure information is easy for people to access, but it sticks around after the moment. So in every community that I work in, especially those that maybe passed bonds in the 90s or earlier, it's hard to find the information about the last bond, and as we all know in communities, stories travel, right? And so we have memories of how things went, and sometimes those are accurate, sometimes they're not. But one of the things you will see from this district, and it's a promise from the district and myself and the firm that I run, is that when we do this, everything that we put out to you will stay electronically on your website spot that they will keep until you get to that next bond. And part of the reason for that is when we get to another bond, we want to make sure we're clear with what we promised, what we accomplished. And if for instance, we didn't accomplish something, we're honest about that as well too. Okay, it's a constant thing that we see in communities, and so we're really committed to it. And I know we're working with Robert initially. That's something that the Lions School District and as the leader are committed to as well. You will see things, and those things will stay up during the bond and after the bond. Okay, to make sure that, like what Robert just talked about before, is not the situation we have moving forward. We want to make sure the community is even more trusting of the district after this than even moving before.
Alright, so now we're gonna kind of pivot over to John's group. And long range planning is, that's a process that the district is engaged in. So we're thinking ahead and we're being good stewards of the public trust. You're gonna hear that over a lot in this presentation. I talked to you about the TAP grant already, and that process, we applied for that grant, we were awarded that grant. We hired John and his company to go through a series of lists that led us to a facilities report. So I'd like to turn it over to John.
Okay, thanks. John Stapleton, with Architecture. We've been around designing schools since 1956 or so. Lots of schools working, primarily rural. Most of our school design happens in rural spaces, rural stuff. So we keep this real simple. There is a process we're required to do the grant that we got, and then there's a process whereby we try to learn what you need and want. Primarily, we're going to focus on the thing that is about you. So really, it's listening. Listen to the practitioners in the classrooms, listen to the administrators, and most of all, listen to the community. The wisdom is here. It's not coming from outside. So our whole job is really do the listening, then we conduct some studies, use the tools that we have, find out, for example, you have enough space for all your students to do all the things they need to be doing. Is everything safe? Is it accessible? Those kinds of questions. Then we develop a plan to meet those needs. This is first swipe at planning. So that plan development happens in a couple of phases. First, we listen, then we come up with something for you to respond to. Then you respond to it, then we adjust to it, then we come back for another follow-up until we have generally reached agreement that we all are addressing the needs that need to be addressed. Once we've made all of those feedback loops, we will end in a reflection, which potentially be the bond proposal the board will vote on. If this process works well, everything you see on there looks like something you've asked us to put on. So in a nutshell, that's what we're trying to do. Work the community wisdom about the needs of your youth. Get those needs met in the built environment and programs, deliver them. That's the process.
Alright, so let's get to the meat and potatoes. Everything we're gonna talk about from this point on, we feel like we can do within the budget that we presented to you tonight. So we're gonna start here in this building, the elementary building. Through that facilities assessment, several things came out of that. The number one thing that came out of it was that this facility you can access this facility in a number of different ways. You can access it from the back, from the front, from the side. There is a need for a single point of entry. And we're going to talk, John talking about what that looks like. Right now, currently, we have buses lining up on Bobcat Lane, and we have parents, student drop off and pick up in front of the building. That will come and monitor both of those areas. We would like to enhance the parent drop off and pick up areas. One of the major issues at this school is this facility we're in right now. It's a beautiful facility, it's a great gymnasium. But currently, this facility is used and has been used for years as a cafeteria / gymnasium. A few years ago, when Oregon mandated PE minutes for all schools, that became problematic when you're trying to run 2 programs out of your gym. So when we have breakfast and we have lunch, our PE has to be outside. Fortunately, we have a play shed, but it's still outside. I also joke that Glide has some of the toughest kids in the state, so a little weather has been bad. But honestly, it's more than that. It's scheduling your lunches right now. We have 2 lunch schedules, and so we're pushing a bunch of kids through lunch very fast, which strains our kitchen staff. If we were able to build a new cafeteria and use this area solely for PE, then we could run 3 lunch periods, which I think would be much more efficient and would help our kids get more time to eat. I shouldn't say that, but it'd be more efficient. The other issue at this school is lack of classroom space. We currently are utilizing every single classroom and every single nook and cranny in the building. I was just taking Kyle on a tour of the building, and we were pointing out all the different groups that actually need in the hallway because we don't have space in the classroom. If we were to add a multi-purpose room / cafeteria on that, to have a single point of entry, that would free up where the current office area is to make 2 classrooms and have some small group area. So let's see, did I get everything on that, Mr. Beard? I think I got it. John's gonna go into some more detail on this facility.
So this is kind of tiny. Come back and ask more questions if you want to know the specifics, but on that side of the building, you've got a great opportunity to bring the welcome group, which is your district staff, to the front of the building, welcome the parents and the students when they come in. That also has the added advantage of making sure that the right people are coming and going. And your students are staying safe and accounted for. Right now, if you have folks coming in the door, it doesn't happen to be somebody there who's watching that door, and you don't know who's coming in most of the building. Not such a big issue in rural communities, but it is something that we tend to not want with your elementary school. So this gives you set up a nice welcome space that lets folks know where they're supposed to come in. It'll be easier to access, it'll be safer. Adjacent to that, the superintendent just said, there's not enough minutes in the day for the students to get their wellness in. So they're supposed to be doing PE and exercising, and this room is full of lunch. It just doesn't happen as effectively. So also, side note, that adds another bit of capacity to your other community and athletics functions. So it'd be a room like this where you can use it for all sorts of stuff. That's an added asset community. And then the little orange dot right there, there's some added classrooms and accessible restrooms. Right now, the school is pretty short of accessible restrooms. I think there's a couple in there somewhere. So adding some accessible restrooms in the classrooms will really help round out the instructional school platforms. It's really in great shape now, but it's a little too tight. There's not quite enough space where everything you can be doing with the numbers of kids have. So this is strictly meant to build the capacity of the building instead of the number of students.
Perfect, thank you. Actually, you have 2 things I forgot. So the new multi-purpose room would not only be used for instruction and the food service during the day, but it also provides another building, which if building space is limited and applied for extracurricular activities or evening groups, such as dance clubs, band clubs, other organizations. They also is the lack of restrooms and accessible restrooms, so I'm glad you brought that up too. Okay, on to the middle school. When I was directed by the board to start looking into a new capital improvement plan, the number one thing, without doubt, from every group I talked to, from staff to my board, to community members. If we had an opportunity to do a capital improvement bond, what would be the number one thing you would want to do? Almost 95% of the people said they wanted the old middle school built and put back. So, I looked into how much that would cost, and, John's gonna get into that in a little bit, but it was cost prohibitive. So I started asking follow-up questions. What is it about the old middle school and that area that you're looking to accomplish by building a new middle school? So I heard things like middle schoolers need their own space, and middle school is a time where kids are developing their own identity, and they need to be proud of their area. Instruction looks a little bit different in middle school. I don't know how many of you had experience with middle schoolers, they're just a little bit different, so you have to teach them a little different. So we took the tenets and the concept of building a new middle school, and we put it into a more feasible package. That we're looking at, and John's gonna get into more of those details. But what we're looking at is adding at the high school, middle school complex that would house a new middle school. So it would have 6 classrooms, it would have individual entry bathrooms, have common educational space again, which John will get into. The other thing I shared with you earlier was a community perspective that last one didn't provide a map room for the wrestling team. There's more of a need than just the wrestling team, but that one we want to call out specifically. But we want to build another multi-purpose room that's used for instruction during the day for the middle school students in particular, but would also serve as the mat room during wrestling, or a place for our cheerleading team to practice, or we have 2 really strong dance teams in the community that practice in our cafeteria at the high school right now. Give them more opportunities and space to utilize. The beauty of this concept that we're going to present to you, it sets up the footprint to build a safe and secure high school, middle school. I know all of you are longtime United people, but like I shared with you, this is my 3rd year. I've never been on a campus where there's been a street that goes through the middle of campus. We would really like to secure that facility and make that a pedestrian campus, not have a street go through there. John's going to talk more about that. So that multi-purpose room we can use for PE and other instructional practices. It would also be used in PE for extracurriculars.
Okay, so really quick, most of covered it. First off, it's a beautiful campus with school signage, really nice. Great views, the river, I mean, it's really nice. Big chunk of street running through is a little dicey, it's split off in the daytime, but it is an opportunity though for a real jam of space without a lot of investment because you have all the bones. Just converting it to pedestrian and outdoor learning spaces and having the students have it, own it, feel proud of it, make this their space is a fairly straightforward move we can make. So we talked about the middle school, and so middle schools are really, really expensive to buy them from scratch. All the things, gym, cafeteria, classrooms, etc., are the $60 to $70 million range. You don't really need all of that stuff. You just need a middle school that has an identity. So we've got a little picture here, it's kind of hard to see. This is what we did for Napa School District. We had the same exact issue. Middle school kind of got folded into the elementary, it wasn't working that great. So we came up with this learning commons idea, where middle school students have a learning commons where their social space, they can do projects there. It's kind of in the middle of the classroom wing. It's a much more cost-effective way to get that same feel, and because you have such a great campus, you don't have to create a campus, you already have it. So the middle school has this own little courtyard area that will just be great for this. So once middle school buildings are kind of connected to that, it has its own identity, very straightforward. Most of the stuff is already in place. There's some old modular buildings there that you may have seen. Those are not super valuable, they're pretty aged. They can be rolled away somewhere else. So you have a great space to put this. And then converting the campus to a pedestrian student oriented campus could be a great move. It really incredible learning environment. For a fairly straightforward and easy to achieve, sometimes these things can be quite complex. A little bit tough, but within, et cetera, you roll away the modulars, you add these two buildings that, superintendent just described, and you can create a middle school campus. And an overall high school campus, so it's really incredible.
Yeah, if you build it, they're gonna be on, we got all that there. We'll open this up for questions here. Okay, the last area, piece of property that the district has is the athletic complex. Again, a beautiful facility, lots of money has been put in to this facility. Where we have really nice athletic facilities, we have a beautiful track, football, soccer field, baseball, softball. Our concession stand is aging. But the whole facility in general is really a nice piece of property. And I believe both gentlemen, I know one of them for sure, when they did their facility, they called by property rich. We have a lot of property in a Valley School District, and we're underutilized in that. And so we've made an investment at the athletic complex to have these nice facilities, but they go unattended all day long. There's no building down there that supervises that complex. And so unfortunately, we do have people that wander through the facilities. We've had vandalism down there, which we could avoid by having supervision out there. So to protect our investment and to do some of the things we needed to do at the middle school, we're talking about putting a, what do we call this? A community event support building down there. That'll house certain things, one of those being the district office. One of the things I wanted to say about that is currently the district office is on the high school, middle school campus. Running a district office on a school campus is problematic. There's lots of sensitive things, conversations, meetings you have, parents and students that really are much better at protecting confidentiality if they were not on the same campus. And I can get into more detail on that if you need more detail on that. So having a building down there that will provide supervision and scheduling and basically just protecting the investment down there. And again, we can do that at a pretty minimal cost. The other thing. Right on.
The fence is cracked. I've been there for 2 years. Every time I call now, when you gonna get the fence done, when you not put up the fence, one time I get told, don't put up the fence, another time I get told, go ahead and put up. It's ragged. I want it to be, I want it done, I don't care about all this stuff, I need to get it. The fence runs all the way across Williams to connect to people across Freedom's property.
Yeah.
The fence is completely down there. We have homeless running through there.
Let me interrupt you for a minute. How about I get you my card and you and I meet? I've never talked to you about events, so.
We do that and look, I believe them because I'm all directed toward that. And also, like, you know, how much the Madness for the rest of it.
How much of the math?
The rest of it, now, that expensive for the cost, yeah.
They're pretty spendy. I don't know off the top of my head.
So we'll give it back for that too, because I'm sure if we went on Facebook and asked everybody, we could get a map for the rest of it, they need it.
Yeah, so it's not a map that they need, it's a place for events.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a place for event. We have.
More money,
That's a bit more money, yes.
But still, I'm ready to know.
Okay, so the other thing that came out of that facilities is the need for an indoor practice facility. Several school districts, we actually have one in the county in South Umpqua, have gone to an indoor practice facility using a metal building, after church inside. Really minimal cost, but huge impacts to your community. And what this would do is in the fall, when there's days we have to cancel practice because of smoke, it would give teams an area to practice in and allow that to continue. In the springtime, when we have to cancel practice or use our gyms because of inclement weather, it would give a designated place for those teams to practice. The one at South Oakland, the one that I'm proposing is 100 by 100 building. It's AstroTurf all the way through. And actually down there, they have 8 batting cages that are on a switch that move in and out. So when the batting cages are pushed against the wall, there's an area big enough to set up a complete softball infield. It's a little small for a baseball infield, but you could do a lot of great drills for baseball, softball. Track teams use it. During the fall, soccer and football teams utilize that when the air is too bad to be outside. Then also, we would like to upgrade the current concession area, upgrade the bathrooms, and turn that into a bigger team room. And back to that facility, that outdoor facility would also provide a team room for visiting teams. Currently, it's a little embarrassing during a football game when the visiting team has to go behind the bleachers and hang out in the rain at halftime, but we don't have a place for it, so that would be that need too.
Okay, really quick, that's pretty straightforward. The red blob at the top was the support building you're talking about. So in the case of the folks that are gonna be in that building, the only piece that can move on the high school campus that isn't instructional in nature was the superintendent's trailer. So they're the ones that got kicked out, gonna move an educational building. So that's why this is here. Also, again, this is a way to have, it's hard to pay the supervisor staff to take care of these kind of facilities. When you have folks that are already doing other functions, they can also watch and monitor events, etc. So that building is thought of as something very straightforward. Small wooden building, and if you're really interested, you can go check out what we recently done at the Oaklands. Pretty much exactly the concept, very straightforward, small wooden building where you can have small meetings for community, for your boards to meet, a few offices for the district staff, and some support spaces. Same, the purple blob, that's athletic support spaces, all sorts of purpose uses. Likely some sort of engineered metal building, those typically are what we can use for that. Just to do a closed space, keep the weather and smoke out. And then there's a picture of the array, is that the actual one? Or something similar to that?
No,
That's the actual one, so the first is pretty cool. A lot of folks are gonna want to come to your town for that right there. And so you've got a pretty premium athletic and event ground out here. Side units could also be great sports space in case of emergency. Place for large animals to go. People gather adjacent to your big emergency center. There's a lot which can be done to establish development and staff and habits. This is pretty straightforward. There are 3 things: field, support building, and a multi-purpose setting.
All right, so some just real quick recaps. Elementary school benefit, we talked about reducing the disruptions in e-instruction. Fewer instructional disruptions, improved parent drop-off, bus flow, single point of entry, improved office visibility and secure entry, increased classroom capacity and ADA accessibility, and expand community and extracurricular space. High school, middle school. Improved middle school commons and gathering space, flexible community and instructional learning area, stronger school identity and sense of place, improved restroom access and privacy, dedicated instructional multi-purpose spaces, enhanced student courtyard and collaboration space, more secure campus and safer for pedestrians, expand multi-purpose and event space. We put a couple things that could be dedicated towards that. And recap on the athletic community complex. Instead, as John said, we're getting house seated from our trailer and would relocate the district office to be really centrally located in the district. The athletic field is almost right in the middle of between the elementary and high school. increase privacy for meetings with the district, I talked about that a little bit. Improve supervision and facility security, serve as a shelter during emergencies, provide a location for supporting events such as rodeos, equestrian events, concerts, animal shows, community gatherings, bring visitors to the live area, which also boosts our economy for our local businesses. Provides an indoor practice and team space, additional restrooms for events and community space. And community can use these facilities through our community facilities use policy that the district has. We want to make sure that's. All right, that was a lot of information in a short period of time. John's going to walk you through a little activity, but before that, any burning questions that you might have? Yes. So like I said earlier, it'll be on the website. You'll have a picture of you'll have the district website. The White School District website. I do not know that.
Long time.
Excellent.
There's probably a lot of people who turned up never now.
That'll give you a reason to get on there then. Okay. Fair enough. Is that maybe not? We should look on before. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. That's a very much 70 times from because the bottom issue with cost not.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I need that clear in your mind when you leave here, okay? So there's a, and that's what Kyle talked about. You have a obligation bond that the state of Oregon put in for everyone in the state of Oregon, and that's how schools are funded for staff and utilities and general maintenance. But in order to build facilities, you have to do what's called a capital improvement bond. And that's what we're talking about tonight. I approved that capital improvement bond in 2007 for 20 years. So that bond is maturing next year. So it goes away if we don't pass another one. So we're in that window where we can do all the stuff that we just talked about at no additional cost to taxpayers.
How much would the taxes go back?
Well, that's, you have to look under your taxes.
Back in 2007, I was in the middle of all of this talk. And we could actually walk around and physically see roofs that needed to be replaced and buildings that needed to be maintained.
Right.
Now I'm looking at this and it feels like you guys see $22 million there to keep hands on. And you're deciding how can you spend that 22 million.
Well, we're having meetings like this, talking about
This community right now is hurt. And my taxes doubled in the last 20 years.
well, your bond tax,
Homeowners insurance is double.
your bond tax has actually gone down, started at $1.08, and now it's at
It's still part of that property. And it seems like this is a big wish list. There's nothing on. And how can you guys think there's anything but to read, write, or do arithmetic?
So I hope I explained the instructional benefits to everything that we put up here. This is not a wish list, this enhances the instructional experience that all our kids in the Lions School District will have. Moving forward.
Well, below 22 million with the.
Yeah, well, like a huge difference. No,
My question is, like, you take a blue crayon, where are all the legal, is it, you have to have flag marks? When you, because I know streets you hit corner of. Just outside the fire, that's like go over your fence.
yeah, it doesn't have to do with your address, it's, the Lions School District is different than your city.
Those people that you own property in that.
Lions School District.
Yeah, those are more that are impacting by.
Correct, they're the ones that will get on their ballot to vote yes or no, if the board decides to go.
So that was always.
Goes to Dining Lake, it goes, Dixonville, out, Deer Creek, North Bank, but Kess.
No, I
Well, you can try all of them.
So, but that's not good. So, if it, I'll get them, how it's under that, so I said, you'll want me to do that on to the blind.
Yeah.
Please say that.
The current bond rate is 91.6 per thousand, assessed value.
Okay. You never get anything, right?
Well, this will be no increase to that, we're proposing no increase. So as this gentleman pointed out, if Clyde votes it down. And we go in May of next year, and it gets voted down again, this window of opportunity disappears. And then in the future, we would have to go and ask for the entire house. Okay,
What do you think? To these. And.
what do you mean by other people's money? Come in,
They, which,
the Austin grant does,
yeah,
which. That's the matching grant, so they have to pass them on in order to be eligible for that.
fine. But we have, connection there, how do we use this money? 20 years for 90%.
So that's what will be in the. So the resolution that the board will pass will set that bond rate at 91 cents. And that's what will be put to the voters in November. If you vote yes on that, then it stays at 91 cents unless the property value goes up, then that 91 cents goes down. So I left that piece out of my presentation. That's why you started with the dollar rate in 2007 and then only paying 91 cents down is because everybody's assessed value went up. That dollar amount isn't going to change. So back to your point, I think you were making is that. If you voted not to do that, that 91 cents, that obligation would go away.
I understand that, but it's still. It doesn't extend out the time.
We're gonna ask for 20 years, just like in 2007. So it'll be paid over 20 years. And then in 20 years, I won't be here, but I was here. Hopefully we'll come back for phase 3 and ask the community again to support that, just for all those reasons that Kyle presented. The worst thing we can do right now as a community is miss this window and let that bond lapse. And then we have a need in the future, and then we have to go back to the community and ask for the whole number instead of just keeping it at no more expense to you. It's kind of.
Okay. The future, we will have to be part of this grant. That's still.
Yeah, we would be. The reason Oregon put that in is to incentivize voters to pass laws. So it's part of all the taxes we all pay in the state of Oregon, and that money is dedicated through legislation. And gets put into a pot of money to vote to people who pass laws. All right, any other questions? Yes, sir.
25 years ago, Measure 5 was adopted,
Mhm.
which limited the property tax increase to 3%.
Correct.
Everybody here know the rule of 72s? You divide that number into 72 and it tells you when your assessment doubled. So the 24 years since Measure 5 was adopted, the assessed value upon which property taxes are being levied on my property has doubled. Now, I'm retired, like many of the people in this different community. I want to say right off that no objection to your proposals. But the question I'm posing is, how is this geographic area going to support what it is that you are requesting?
So I'm not sure I 100% understand your question, so let me clarify. First of all, I don't set your property value, that's done through a whole other system. Remember, if your value goes up, like you said, capital improvement bond, the rates actually go down, so you actually pay less.
That's not true. If your value goes up, you're still levying the $5 for schools. you're still living. You're the fire.
That one stays the same, you're right.
Whatever, but. My question and my concern with what you're proposing. Is the load that you are putting on this geographic area. And this geographic area. If you have a 20-year bond. Your assessment's gonna double in 20 years. Or 24. So. Do we have the financial strength? In this geographic area. To support. What you are proposing to do.
Yeah, so I believe we do. It's not going to change on this particular bond. It's not going to change how much ever your property is raised. It lowers your bond rate, so. It's not gonna, you're not gonna pay any more than you're paying already, so if the community can support it right now. What we're asking is the community to continue to support what they're supporting right now.
But the community. Passed that one issue 10 years ago.
20 years. 2007.
Okay, so that was levied against. Top half of the assessed value that you now have within the school district. I am pointing this out because I think. People need to understand, and you and your people who are working on this. Need to thoroughly understand that you are asking people to pay against dramatically over a period of time, dramatically increasing this stuff. And other gifts. So I am prior to as well as the school district. But it is the challenge that all of us have, who are a property owner, to recognize the financial commitment we're being asked to make. And the challenge we have, knowing that we're gonna get a 3% decrease in our assessed value every year.
I had a question now, and actually I appreciate your point. What I'm asking you to do is invest in the future of the Blythe community. I know for retired people, that's a tough sell because you don't have kids in the system. But the strength of your community, 100% relies on the strength of your school district. And what I'm asking you to consider is keeping your school district strong. Give people a reason to have kids go through the Blythe school district. This is going to improve the instructional experience that every kid will have as they go through our school system. That's the pitch I'm trying to say. You can do that, we can do that with some pretty cool improvements. Maintaining your current level of taxes that you have right. And that's really my message. I'll be here.
Well, so this question you asked is a good question. I think right. The question you asked about the cumulative tax rate is a good question. The math is going to be complex because it depends on. But we could do a little thinking about how could we represent this question. So I thought I heard you say, well, make sure everyone understands what they could do. Don't you agree? Like before you make this decision. Okay, let me talk louder. I think what you asked was, we want to make sure it's clear, everybody's clear on what they're getting into. When they decide to pass this tax, so that cumulative tax rates exist. And that will affect your overall out of pocket eventually, as it does with non-property owner every year, my taxes go up on 11. And so there's decisions, as Robert indicated, about what you want to invest, what you have, what will you have left over. And I hear you, so we'll do some thinking about how can we represent this question, so people know.
Passing knowledge of this. For 30 years, I was a consultant for the Board of Equalization, which doesn't exist. I was involved in major five past, and like one was Asian. Came in, major five fits the property tax rate of $15. Measure 50 exempted bond issues from the $15. So in addition to the $15, we're going to be levying against your increasing value. We now have fund issues, as I pointed out, the entire district was on the school district. And I am not. I don't have any kids, you have sons on the school board, but I believe this is a question that these people need to be thinking about. And if you are going to be selling this bond issue, you're going to have to think about how we approach these people and recognize what has happened to property taxes the last 12 years. Practically double. And we're talking a 40-year bond. Your property taxes are going to effectively double. I don't expect to be your right one. But your property taxes are going to effectively double that 20%. So, manner of which you sell it is going to be very, very important to recognize that many of the people in the district are experiencing a dramatically higher tax bill than they were in the tax last one. That's, I'm not trying to do that, and it's something that many people. How did my bill get where it is? And the legal system of us, the 3% increase is going to happen no matter what. So, how does that interrelate with the bond issue that you were proposing?
Excellent, thank you. Another question?
Yeah, kind of question, a little bit of a statement too, so, I graduated from White High School and grew up in this community. Thought this community will be here for the rest of my life. Rooted in this community, I fully support investing into the future of the children in this community, because we have been invested in that, it will grow this community and help on strong here. So we don't, that's intolerable to do. They're gonna find someone else to do to and grow to outside of our community and further this community. What we're talking about here, we love people, correct me about this wrong here. But what I'm hearing, based off of the assessment.
No worries. My name is Travis Olson. A lot of familiar faces here, some new faces. What I'm saying, if I'm understanding this incorrectly, but if we're voting to support this bond, it's continuation of something that we've been paying into and investing on the last 20 years. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm guilty of the whole, so I will try to hold it close. We're continuing to, if it's voted in, we're continuing to pay at the same level that we've been paying to for the last 20 years. The assessed property value and the continuing decline is outside of our control. That's something that we're not here to vote on. That's something we're asking for here. I don't think that that's what the district is asking for. It's something that's completely outside of their control. What they are saying here, and this is where I can correct me if I've got this in there. But what they're saying is the starting rate for this 20-year period is based off of the current amount of 91 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. Everybody here has their own property that's assessed at a different value, so everybody's going to be paying into it differently based on the property that they own. As the assessed value goes up, the rate is dropping. What they're saying is it is 91 cents based on today's assessed value. That's flat, assuming a flat rate across the 20-year period where our assessed value doesn't change. So that 91 cents is a set rate that we're voting on.
Can I explain that just a little bit further?
Yes.
So I have a whole nother slide that I really wasn't going to get that deep into tonight, but our conversation has led us to this. So if we have passed the vote in November. That sets the bond rate at 91 cents, it produces $16 million. We get $16 million. Then you, by voting yes and agree, pay that $16 million back over a 20-year period. So you're not gonna pay more, or that's not gonna change. Once you vote on that dollar figure, you voted for that. We get that money, we do our construction stuff. We share with you all the things that we said we were going to do and be good stewards of your taxpayer money. But that obligation is set right there. They're not gonna charge you more. They could charge you less, because if your property value goes up, that means we're generating more money to go back to that $22 million, $60 million that was given to us. So that means you're paying less towards that. So, it's not like it's gonna fluctuate over the next 20 years. You're gonna vote on something that sets in place. We get $16 million to do what we tell you all we're gonna do with it. Or you vote no, and we don't get that money, which means we miss out on the awesome matching grant, which means we don't do these projects to enhance the student experience for Live School District. Does that help a little bit on how that process works?
That's.
No? Okay, let me try to get you understand it.
And. But actually, we're gonna be on forever.
Yeah, I don't have any, yeah, no, but it's not going to be like.
Yes.
Because actually, you will not pay.
Well, in reality, you're asking for less money now than you were 20 years ago. 20 years ago, that's what my friends are only wish, the economy's not going to be a great place right now to do that only happen. That's just like, 20 years ago, they passed money in $1.08,
Yes.
and now we're asking for 91 cents. So we've gone down 20 cents and sorry.
You're not making a strong argument.
That's in the future.
Absolutely, one of the best in the county.
That's exactly right. I love a lot of people that. Just because I was involved there.
Yeah.
But because it did, it was one of this.
I would echo that. All right, let's wrap things up. John, you have, I'm sorry, yes.
Question, well, I could have given up. Okay, that bonus 6 million.
Yes.
On passed. What is, of all these little images, like, what's the bonus thing? On here, like, when is that $6 million getting? Just to put it in context, because if it doesn't happen now, and we don't get that 6 million bonus, right? And it has to be re-up later, and there's not that 6 million bonus. Something has to be cut. So what would the cutting be? Like, what's the bonus thing?
That would be-
Community is
That's a great question.
It's
It's a great question, and the answer, it's not gonna be an answer you like, but we would be coming back to a group like this. Gathering information from the board to decide which one of these projects are we not gonna do.
It'd be actually no more than that. It'd be one and something.
Oh, that's probably
It
true.
would be more than one of the, that have to be, depending on which one you do.
So basically, for that $6 million, we get all three, and then for like,
Right,
like,
like-
how much did you get like one?
The middle school one, for example, is more than that, but.
Okay.
Right, so you might say, oh, yeah, that comes off, that will do it, we'll have to do more of that, something I will leave. The educational spaces are constantly growing, research and expect. Students in the safety, so yes, you would cut a third of this give or take. Out of budget, if we don't go that way.
So if that's an answer to your question,
I
but
think that's, like, I think that's important, I'm totally the person that, when there's.
I just want to clarify, the mechanics it doesn't work that. It's actually an opposite of that. So there's no way we would get the $16 million and not the $6 million. What we would not get is the $6 million if we don't pass the 16 million.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, like, that's the.
You're getting an extra.
That you're, yeah, and so without that, you're coming back in 2 years asking for 16 million. Then you're not getting like.
I got you.
6 million of the bonus, we don't get, right, plus we're talking, plus it was talking, yeah. So that's why I'm.
They're just saying that for the proposal is over 22 costs.
Correct.
Yeah.
It'll actually end up being 22.1.
You're only paying.
But you're only refinancing or financing the 16 million. All right, can we pivot a little bit here? Okay, so they're all great questions, great discussions. I opened myself up, I told you I'm open to corrective criticism, constructive criticism. I really appreciate the questions and I really appreciate your point of views. Please know that I heard you and I understand.
This fund. That is tax money too, it's coming out of our left pocket instead of our right.
But we don't have any control over that. Your legislators have voted for that.
That's a tool that's already there, that was, that's a, whether we got that or not, that's still sitting there. That's a-
But you're right, we pay for it,
Right, yeah.
we pay for it, but
It's not a property tax. It's good.
that one you don't get a vote on. It's taken out of your taxes regardless. The legislation already agreed. Okay, how about this? We were gonna do a little activity where you live around. We have the projects on a bigger screen in the back. And myself and our experts are gonna hang out back there. If you have direct questions or if you want more clarification on some of the items that we talked about, we'll be available back there. If you have any questions, please call the district office, get a hold of me. I have a very open door policy. I return calls very quickly. I wish this gentleman was here because I want to reiterate, I've never heard from him about the fence. If I heard about the fence, I will make contact with him and have that conversation. So if you have a question, get a hold of me. I will definitely get back to you. Thank you all very much for taking time out of your evening to hear this.